Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we go over the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. I am Katie Halper.
And I'm Aaron Maté. How are you, Katie?
I'm good. And you know what else, guys? I'm going to be even better at 11 o'clock when we do our call-in. That was a good segue, right?
It's a great segue. So,
great segue, yeah.
Yeah.
At
even better than now.
That's even better than now, and I'm pretty good now. So at 11 a.m. we'll be on Callin, so make sure you join us on Callin where we take your calls, and that's that free app that we use. Yeah, so that's about it. And of course, please like the stream. We always encourage you to do that. Helps us beat the algorithm.
Please give us a like. Help our self-esteem.
Yeah, help ourselves. That's what it's really about. I pretend it's for numbers and stuff, but it's just about feeling validated.
Yeah, especially in this post Brian Stelter era of Monday morning. It's
we need it more than ever, guys.
We do. We do. It's a hard time.
It's really a hard time. Yeah, we need something to give us hope.
I mean, has there ever been a more appropriate title for a show than Monday Morning?
No.
Than after Brian Stelter ended his show?
I mean, no. It's doubly appropriate now. Yeah.
Well, we got a lot of clips. Should we hit it?
Yeah, let's hit it.
Well, let's start with the Chuckster, as we usually do. Chuck Todd, everybody. Telling us what we need to know.
And a good Sunday morning. And a good Sunday morning. There's been no shortage of unkind things said about the job of Vice President of the United States. And many of those things have been said by vice presidents. The most famous may have come from the first, John Adams. I am Vice President, he said. In this, I am nothing, but I may be everything. The number one job of the Vice President is to be a good number two, to help make progress without making waves. And after 20 months, Kamala Harris is familiar with the position's unique challenges. She was seen as a new symbol of a racially diverse country. But as President Biden's approval ratings fell, so did hers. She's been tasked with some intractable assignments, from enacting national voting reform to solving the immigration crisis at the border. Some of her supporters, and there are quite a few, argue she's being set up to fail on some of those.
Did anybody really think that Kamala was going to solve the immigration crisis at the border? That's a pretty tall task.
Right. It's a pretty tall order, which is why the thing that he's about to say may be true.
All right.
Let's see.
Issues. But she's also well positioned to become president someday. Why? 15 vice presidents already have, including our current president, who was a former vice president. Today is September 11th. It was 21 years ago that we were attacked by foreign terrorists. Not quite 20 years after 9/11, the Capitol came under attack from domestic terrorists. With the 9/11 anniversary in mind, I sat down with Vice President Harris on Friday at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. She was there to talk about the space program in general and to speak with some astronauts on the International Space Station. I began by asking the Vice President about how, over 2 decades, our focus has had to shift from foreign terror to the threat from within.
So what did I wait? Sorry, I may have played over this. Can we just go back there to the
and a good Sunday morning?
Hold on. This is where he suggests
crisis at the border. Some of her supporters, and there are quite a few, argue she's being set up to fail on some of those issues. But she's also.
So there it is, guys. Is she given those hard assignments because Biden wants to destroy her?
So Kamala has been sabotaged.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, really, we're going to draw a line between 9/11 and January 6th.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just see a bit of it. I see a bit of a different. January 6th was terrible, horrible riot. Somebody died. Ashley Babbitt, the protester, died, and some officers died afterwards. But you want to compare that to the killing of more than 3,000 people in an international terror attack? I don't know.
Well, if you multiply each death by 1,000, then you get there.
Okay. Yeah.
So there you have it. I'm actually surprised they're not drawing more of a line.
Yeah. Well, look, for people on the right who are like talking about how how they feel persecuted, it's good ammunition for them, for Chuck Todd to be calling them domestic terrorists and drawing a link between them and 9/11.
Yeah. Also, you know who did the first person who I think it was Brooklyn Dad Defiant, the great DNC troll, who and non-child support payer, who said that this was worse than 9/11.
Yeah, and we heard the same thing in Russiagate too. Russia, like before January 6th, Russiagate was the new 9/11. It was the cyber 9/11.
And it was actually, it was either 9/11 or, of course, it was kind of like the new Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And both of those comparisons were great because they led to wars.
Yes.
So
yeah. Well, bring on the internal war, everybody. Chuck talking to the general.
He will take us there. And now that Zucker is no longer at CNN, as we all know from Brian Stelter's monologue, Zookster could lead us to war and provide us a heat shield to protect us.
That's right. Brian Stelter said that Jeff Zucker's CNN employees would go to war for Jeff Zucker.
Yeah, right.
By the way, even when Jeff Zucker was fired, nobody went to war, which is kind of.
Well, they became pacifists at that same. They were conscientious objectors at that same moment. Yeah.
Well, let's hear from Kamala. What she has to say at the space station.
I have met with, and I've had conversations with over 100 foreign heads of state, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, kings. And, you know, when we as the United States walk into those rooms around the world, we have had the honor and privilege historically of holding our head up as a defender and an example of a great democracy.
That's got to be awkward when someone walks in the room and like they're holding their head up high.
Yeah, seriously.
And they're like, hey, we're better than you because we're the defender of a great democracy where we have two factions of the ruling class that people can choose one or the other. Whereas your country, you just only have one faction of the ruling class, I guess, in some cases.
In some,
that people that people can people have no choice to pick. We have two factions of the ruling class.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what bounces back and forth between.
Yes. Oh my God, the moral authority that gives people must be in awe.
Yeah.
Of the moral power that a U.S. leader brings.
And their American leaders' necks must be sore.
Oh, it must be tired. Yeah. To have your head up that high. Oh my God. Yeah. Hope they have a good chiropractor.
Yeah, seriously.
All right.
And that then gives us the legitimacy and the standing to talk about the importance of democratic principles, rule of law, human rights. And
who do they tell this to? Like the leaders of Saudi Arabia that they're giving billions of dollars to, or the leaders of Israel who are ruling over millions of Palestinians, occupying their land, or the leaders of Egypt, suffering its worst dictatorship right now under Sisi. I mean, like who are they? Who are they talking to about democracy?
Right. Well, I mean, those leaders are so democratic. It must be like a head off, like everyone in.
Oh yeah, everyone's craning their neck.
Yeah.
One of the things, though, that comes with that privilege is that we hold ourselves out to be a role model, which means the rest of the world, like any role model, watches what we do to see if it matches up with what we say. So you look at everything from the fact there are 11 people right now running for Secretary of State, the keepers of the integrity of the voting system of their state, who are election deniers. You've got...
And what's that?
You know, that's like everyone around the world is keeping track of those races, those Secretary of State races.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, you know, what I'm looking for, Katie, in my friends, people I talk to, is I need a role model.
Yeah.
You know, I need, like, that's like, it's such a desirable trait. It's to, like, know people, talk to people who want to be your role model. That's what she's saying. Like, we're a role model for everybody. Yeah. Like, who wants to be around a self-identified role model?
With her head up.
With her head
looking down at everyone. I know. She must be great at parties.
Yeah.
Election deniers. You've got...
And what's that sending? What message does that send to the world?
Well, you couple that with people who hold some of the highest elected offices in our country who refuse to condemn an insurrection on January 6th. And I think what it sends is a signal that causes people to question, hey, is America still valuing what they talk about, which is the integrity of democracies, which means protecting rule of law and the sanctity of these systems, and speaking up when they are attacked. And I'm very concerned about it, Chuck. I'll tell you, I'm very concerned about it because there are so many issues going on in the world that I think require, at least how we as Americans have traditionally thought about what is right, what is good, what should be fought for, what should be human ideals, and certainly the ideals of democracies. Mm-hmm. And I think that through the process of what we've been through, we're starting to allow people to call into question our commitment to those principles.
Oh my God. You mean the U.S., which props up dictatorships around the world and undermines governments that don't follow its orders, might be waning from its commitment to democracy. Ugh, the world is the world's shaken with uncertainty.
It shook.
Yeah.
I mean, Max Blumenthal calls. He said he was there on January 6th, and he says it wasn't an insurrection. It was a low IQ riot. Yeah,
he calls the people there the Ku Klux Clowns.
Yeah.
And I think that's accurate. Like the idea that all these people, unarmed, not very organized, kind of cosplaying. I think people were cosplaying as insurrectionists.
Yeah.
But cosplaying as insurrectionists doesn't actually make for an actual insurrection. The idea that the government was anywhere close to being overthrown is a joke. It is.
Yeah. They would have had to have done a lot more legwork to prepare that.
Absolutely. Like the Q shaman was not going to take over the country.
Right. Yeah. But there are people who already were mad in America, speaking of 9/11, even before January 6th.
That is true. that is true. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. January 6th didn't really, I think, shake the world in ways that the Biden administration wants us to think it did.
Yeah. I know. I love the idea of all these people who looked up to America until January 6th, at which point everything changed. That was a real game changer.
Yeah.
I got to find a new role model, guys. Said every world leader, king, prime minister, president.
You were my role model until January 6th.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, we have so many clips.
Keep going.
So much more wisdom to come.
What do we got next?
But I don't know if we can do all of these.
Which one's this one?
This is more Kamala about, democracy. The world is.
Yeah, this is a good one, though.
Yeah.
I think this is a good one. Let's play this one. We can skip the next one because she doesn't actually say anything.
Have you thought through the scenarios that you might face on January 6, 2025?
Not at all. No. Listen, what have I thought about? I've thought about the fact that right now we...
Wait. So she's talking about January 6th as something that changed the way the world looks at us.
Have an election.
Threatens the United States reputation. And then she's laughing at it. And saying Chuck, it's so impossible to happen again.
And Chuck kind of is clamoring. He's like, I think any chance we can get another January 6th in 2025?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Is there a sequel coming out?
It'd be amazing for my ratings.
Yeah.
Yes.
The scenarios that you might face on January 6, 2025?
Not at all. No. Listen.
And then
what
she
have I
shifts gears.
thought about? I've thought about the fact that right now we have an election in less than 2 months. And if we're going to look at timelines, that's one of the most immediate timelines that I'm looking at.
I know, but have you thought about how you might handle a certification that did not reflect the outcome of the popular vote in the state?
I'm so proud of that question.
I have to believe that that the United States Congress and all people who have taken an oath to defend our democracy will ensure and will stand up against anyone who tries to destroy or circumvent the rules and the practices and procedures that we've had in place that have allowed a peaceful transfer of power since the inception of our nation and the founding.
These people have such a hard job, I think. Like they are tools of the ruling class, basically, but they have to pretend as if there's a real democracy and there's high stakes in everything they're talking about, and that the people have a say in how the country works. And so they have to hyperfixate on these issues that give the illusion of democracy when really are just reinforcing a system where we're ruled by oligarchs, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. And so they have to come up with creative ways constantly to make it look as if there's something at stake here, and they're defending democracy. And this, they have to do it every single day of their lives because they're the faces of the ruling class, basically. I mean, I think it's a tough job, and it looks exhausting emotionally. Yeah. It must be just crippling. And Chuck thinks he's asking Chuck thinks he's asking a tough question. You're right.
I know.
Like, he's like thinks it's like he's doing an amazing job, but really, it's all drivel.
Yeah, I know. His face when he said that was really great. All right, let's keep playing.
Of our nation. And getting back to the ultimate point, that is what we're talking about when we think about January 6th. We have always had a peaceful transfer of power in our nation. No matter our differences, no matter how bloody-knuckled we've been in campaigns.
Can we say that now?
Well, certainly we were on the verge of having a very different outcome. And the injury was still an injury for which we still are experiencing the wound.
The injury was still an injury for which we are still experiencing the wound. Wow. Yeah. Someone should get that tattooed.
We're all in pain, Katie. We're all in pain. Are you in pain over January 6th?
Well, I laugh at it and I'm in pain. That's that's the interesting thing about that injury. It's a laughable injury.
And when you're wounded and you laugh, sometimes it hurts the wound.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It stops the healing.
Exactly.
It could interrupt the healing. Let's just go back to Chuck's face when he asked that question. Look at it.
Oh yeah. This is serious.
This is the I just blew your mind, Madam Vice President. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you thought about the next January 6th?
Yeah.
And is there a bigger issue right now that's stopping the next January 6th?
Right. Not really. Yeah, there is. It's called the elections. Primaries. I mean the midterm, sorry. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next one. Should we skip to Claire McCaskill?
Yeah, I think we've heard enough
from Kamala, yeah.
Kamala, let's get some Kamala reaction.
Yeah.
From former Senator Claire McCaskill.
First of all, I thought she did a terrific job in the interview. I think she has had a rough road to go. I remember distinctly, Chuck, being in the cloakroom in the first 2 years of the Biden vice presidency, and how many of my colleagues were looking down their noses at Joe Biden.
Mock him. Right?
Mocking him, it's a hard job.
So they did not see Joe Biden as a role model, obviously.
They didn't, no.
Yeah.
And they were holding
their heads up at him.
Right, and they were looking down Claire McCaskill's nose at them. At him, yeah.
Biden showed them, didn't he?
Yeah.
But it's like, is this elementary school?
Yeah.
With role models and people snickering behind other people. I mean, it's.
And January 6th was like what? What would the equivalent of that be? Like a dance that someone didn't get invited to or something?
Yeah, or like a schoolyard brawl and people got suspended. And now we have to find the perpetrators.
Right. All right, let's keep going.
The vice presidency. It's even harder, I think, if you are a woman in that job who is seen as an opponent by a lot of the insiders in Washington for the presidency. And so there's a lot of chattering behind the scenes of trying to diss Kamala Harris. I think this interview shows that maybe all the dissing of Kamala Harris is way premature. I think she did a good job and stood strong.
Don't diss her. Keep her as a role model. It's premature, yeah.
It's premature.
Yeah.
You could possibly diss her soon, but don't diss her yet. Yeah, it's premature right now.
Hold your dissing.
Yeah.
Hold fire. Hold your fire, yeah.
Yeah.
Hold your dissing fire, yeah. So now we know that people make fun of.
I'm not saying you can't diss her at a certain point, but right now to diss Kamala right now would be premature. It's too early.
Premature, yeah.
That's high praise.
Yeah. And that's also, don't worry, Kamala, we also made fun of Joe Biden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very encouraging.
Everyone was laughing at Joe, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he became president.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That little girl was me. Or will be me, yeah.
Well,
All right.
if you're not tired of January 6th talk, don't worry. We got plenty more from the Sunday shows. Senator Mark Warner was on Face the Nation, and on 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11, he's talking about January 6th, like everybody else.
And introduced to many Americans for the very first time this sense of vulnerability at home, and it launched the global war on terror. I wonder how vulnerable you think America is now. Are we paying enough attention to the Middle East and to Afghanistan?
Well, Margaret, I remember, as most Americans do, where they were on 9/11. I was in the middle of a political campaign, and suddenly the differences with my opponent seemed very small in comparison. And our country came together. And in many ways, we defeated the terrorists because of the resilience of the American public, because of our intelligence community. And we are safer, better prepared. The stunning thing to me is here we are 20 years later, and the attack on the symbol of our democracy was not coming from terrorists, but it came from literally insurgents attacking the Capitol on January 6th. So I believe we are stronger. I believe our intelligence community has performed remarkably. I think the threat of terror has diminished. I think we still have new challenges in terms of state challenges, Russia, and longer term, a technology competition with China. But I do worry about some of the activity in this country where the election deniers, the insurgency that took place on January 6th, that is something I hope we could see, that same kind of unity of spirit.
The Russians and Chinese are the new terrorists.
And the insurgents at home, I mean,
right.
You know, this is serious talk. This is serious talk. Like, insurgents means armed people violently, waging an insurgency against the government. I mean, this is serious talk, and you fight them with violence. I mean, that's how an insurgency is put down. I don't think Mark Warner wants violence, but it's like the way they're being discussed is this is harsh language.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, you have to have a little bit more of a backup plan than just showing up with dressed up as a shaman or wearing a Camp Auschwitz sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Repugnant people. I mean, many of them. But
sure. Yeah.
Didn't have a very well organized plan.
Yeah. I mean, I would say worst insurgency ever. I'll just say that.
Yeah, if that was insurgency, worst one ever. Yeah. All righty. What do we got next?
General Ben Hodges told our David Martin that Ukraine's military could push Russia back to the borders that existed pre-February 24th when the invasion happened. And that could happen before the end of the year. Do you agree with that timeline?
Again, this operation was possible because of the resolve of the armed forces, because our commanders, from the president to every commander in the battlefield, are so devoted to the victory, but also because 40 million of Ukrainians are supporting this effort and fighting for our country. But more importantly, because our partners have increased all the support, and we're getting more and more of the weapons and equipment that is so needed. So, of course, we would like to liberate all Ukraine as soon as possible to stop the suffering of the people and to restore our sovereignty. But whether it will be possible before the end of the year, we are ready to do it before the end of the year, and hopefully we will have everything we need to do so.
So that was the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S. and the impetus for this question is that Ukraine just did have a huge victory in the Northeast. They pushed out Russia. Russian forces withdrew very quickly from the areas that it was occupying, and so now there's a lot of talk in Washington that Ukraine is on the march. I'm not a military strategist, but I don't see it that way. I think Russia got surprised and suffered a big loss, but this idea now in Washington that the tide is turning, I don't know. It's hard for me to trust it. And to me, it's just a recipe for more disaster, more weapons, more war, more deaths. But for the pro-proxy war side, it is an encouraging time. It is. Right. And I don't know. Russia just responded to Ukraine by taking out a lot of power stations because Ukraine hit a town inside Russia and took out half its power. So now Russia's responded to that. And that to me is what's coming next, is more of that.
In fact, we should probably follow up that clip with clip number 12, because here's another assessment of what just happened. Was Mr. Well, I don't want to give it away, but that is TMM, too much moose.
Too much moose.
Yeah.
Too much moose.
You have spent more time in Ukraine than anyone. This is a pretty extraordinary turn of events. How significant do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it is the most significant event since the Russians were forced to withdraw from around the capital, Kyiv, back in April earlier this year. At the time, they talked about it being a reallocation of troops, a regrouping. They're using the same phrases now. This is huge. The amount of territory they've taken is more than 3,000 square kilometers. That's something like over 1,100 square miles in a matter of days.
How did they do it?
A number of factors. I think the key one was the Ukrainians announced that they were going to target their offensive in the south in Kherson, and that led to the Russians pulling a lot of their best forces away from Izium, away from these areas around Kharkiv, relocated them there. So they were vulnerable. They didn't backfill. They didn't have the support there. And the Ukrainians planned, they saw the weakness, and they struck.
And the Russians have lost massive amounts of equipment. Their supply lines have broken down because of this. So what do they do now? And what does Vladimir Putin do?
I mean, the options don't look great. I mean, there are very, very few. They're in real trouble right now. They're in defensive positions everywhere, because what this offensive means, it doesn't just mean the north of the country. It frees up Ukrainian troops to now push down into Donbass. Remember, we're all talking about the east of the country, all that territory that the Ukrainians had to cede to the Russians. Well, now the Ukrainians are on the front foot, looking like they may retake some of those key places. We talked about the Russians taking Luhansk, which is one half of the Donbass. Well, now they don't have it anymore. They have the majority of it, but they're still on the back foot. Putin does not have many good options.
So,
yeah, I mean, look, they're trying to rally. They're trying to rally the troops. This is a exciting time for the proxy warriors. I was wrong about. I didn't think Russia would invade, and they did. So, maybe these people are right. I just also think there's a huge interest, and there has been from the start, in promoting this war and keeping it going for a long time.
Right.
And we learned recently that the U.S. even helped sabotage chances of peace back in April, when there was the outlines of a deal reached between Russia and Ukraine. And so that, to me, is what's still ultimately driving this. Right.
And also, of course, if you want to encourage arming Ukrainians, you have to have some victories. I mean, I'm not pretending that it was made up, what just happened this weekend, the victory, but they're going to emphasize how well it's going for Ukrainians and how there's no good options for Putin, because that's going to keep the weapons flowing.
Yeah. And Putin recently, in this summer, he said we've barely just begun, or we haven't even just begun. So that, to me, was a veiled threat that he could escalate if he wants to. And that's, that's where I think this is going. It's hard to imagine, but I think we're facing an even bigger escalation than we've already seen. Russia has mostly avoided targeting civilian infrastructure inside Ukraine. Like, power inside Ukraine has mostly stayed on until now, and I think that could change very quickly.
Yeah. Have you seen the Oliver Stone Putin interview series?
I did when it came out, but I don't really remember it.
I've just started watching it. It's very interesting.
Yeah. That was from when? It was from like the mid-aughts or no, like
no. It was after. I think it was 2017.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, very interesting. Recommend it. Mm-hmm. Which makes me not just Putin's puppet, but now I'm Putin's PR person. PPRP. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got.
Where should we go next? We got. You want to go to NATO, or you want to go the other? Do we need more Oksana or no?
Yeah, I think we're good with Oksana. Let's go to the British ambassador.
Yeah.
Challenges the Prime Minister faces, including economic ones, in large part because of Russia's war on Ukraine. Do you see political risk to the alliance in the months ahead?
No, I think the NATO alliance has shown that it is stronger than ever. there has been a remarkably united response to President Putin's invasion. The same is true as the transatlantic relationship between Europe as a whole and the United States more broadly. Leaders will be able to get together in the forthcoming UN General Assembly, where I think you'll see more outpourings of support for Ukraine. There's no doubt there is a cost of living crisis. That's not unique to Britain. We have introduced measures around energy bills and energy prices to try and help ordinary households. And the Chancellor of the Exchequer, our Treasury Secretary, was here recently talking to Secretary Yellen. We're looking together at how we can share best practice in what to do to help households.
Well, Katie, look, if you're at all having a tinge of criticism of what this lady just said, she is a dame. So,
it is true. There is nothing like a dame, as we learned from
Dame
Guys
Karen
and
Pierce
Dolls.
is her official title. Dame Karen
Dame.
Pierce. So, respect the dame. We can't question a dame.
No, you can't question a dame.
Yeah.
So things are going well for NATO, apparently.
Yeah, except for the citizens of NATO who are facing record energy prices right now, and which will get even worse if this war goes on next winter. But there was recently that German foreign minister who said that she doesn't care because she doesn't care if her voters go cold or if they're angry about the higher cost of living and higher cost of energy because of the Ukraine war, because she cares about foremost Ukraine.
Right. Yep. And she's going to keep going. Yeah, we talked about that with Katrina vanden Heuvel on our last episode. Yeah. Hate the game, not the dame.
That's right.
True.
That's right.
All right, what do we got next?
I haven't heard someone called a dame in a long time. It feels like
what makes someone a dame exactly?
It's very 19th century.
Yeah. What makes you a dame?
It's a title. It's like a high-ranking.
It's a knight for a woman.
It's the equivalent of a knight. Yeah.
Right.
But it's also a term for like an elderly woman.
Right.
I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe she's both.
But how are they going to do? Like now we're in the pronoun era. And so what do you do? Like, how are they going to adapt for that?
Zame with a Z, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or a Zeit.
Zeit. Yeah. Anyway, I look forward to that.
Yeah.
All right. So we got General McKenzie. Back to some more 9/11 talk.
Yeah. We're talking about the CIA drone strike that took out the leader of al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, in July. But the administration would point to that and say, look, we can counter the terror threat without a military footprint. So are we at the right balance right now of keeping the homeland safe? Do you agree with their assessment that ISIS and al-Qaeda do not presently pose a threat of being able to carry out an attack here?
When I left active duty, it was our assessment that if we left Afghanistan, if the Afghan government fell, if the Taliban took over, then over a period of time, both al-Qaeda and ISIS would be able to regenerate. That is still my opinion today. It's going to take a little time for them to do that. But I think what's most concerning about the CIA strike that you mentioned was the fact that he was living in very good accommodations in downtown Kabul. Mm-hmm. And that should give us all pause and also speak directly to the ill intent of the Taliban in negotiating with us as we worked with the Doha Agreement, which was the attempt to find an end to the war in Afghanistan. I think it's a manifest example of their inability to keep their word.
Inability to keep their word. Which is why
what does he want us to
freezing their people to death?
So does he want us to go back to Afghanistan?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It was premature to diss Kamala and premature to leave Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what those things have in common. Yeah. I gotta ask, how are we doing on likes, Wilson? I'm okay being the bad cop in this. How are we doing on likes, Wilson?
Looks like 633.
Guys.
Out of how many?
1,600.
Looks like six.
All right, guys. We're going to take a minute. 30 seconds, hopefully. Let's get these up. Everyone, hit the like, smash the like. What, we're at 6 something. We got to get up higher than that. What are we at now?
697. But we have to remember that at least 100 of those are the CIA bots we bought.
Right. That's true. Well, some of them we bought, and then some of them just came because they're CIA.
Right, and they love us.
Let's get to 800, which is still
796.
800 would be good.
829. Thank you,
Thank
CIA.
you. Thank you, CIA. Yeah. All right.
We can hold our heads high
Yeah, exactly.
and resume our status of being role models.
Yeah, and look down Claire McCaskill's nose at you all.
Your likes give us that authority. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. All right, let's go to, should we go to Hillary?
When I walk into a room today, if I see other YouTube hosts, I'm going to hold my head high.
Yeah.
And enjoy being a role model.
I want to ask about the FBI search at Mar-a-Lago. You said this week that you don't want to prejudge because you have been prejudged in your life. I know your infamous emails were investigated, you were cleared, but you've dealt with classified information as former Secretary of State, as a senator. If the Justice Department decides that former President Donald Trump actually committed a crime, do you think he should be treated like any other citizen? Or should the DOJ take into account the potential real-world consequences of indicting a former president and potential 2024 candidate?
I think it's a really hard call, and I cannot predict what the Justice Department will do at the end of its investigation. But I do think the rule of law, holding people accountable, is central to our nation. And both as Secretary of State and as a private citizen, I have answered every question I've ever been asked. I've testified for 11 hours. I've, been involved in anything that was asked of me to try to answer any kind of issue. I think that's the way the system is supposed to work, even if you are, not sure why you're being with the spotlight on you. And therefore, I really believe that at the end of the day, no one is above the law and no one should be escaping accountability if indeed the facts and the evidence point to them having done something that anyone else in our country would be investigated for and maybe even charged.
So it sounds like you're saying that he should be treated like he would if he was Donald J. Trump, somebody who was a civilian, an average citizen, not a former president or potential candidate?
I do, because he's not the president, and we do have some special exceptions for someone actually in the office.
1 second, not substance. Like, this isn't about the content, but she's speaking in a very weird way. Like her dentures are like she has dentures or something. Anyway.
So I do think that just like any American, if there is evidence, that evidence should be pursued. But I know it's not an easy call. And so I don't want to inject, my opinion into that difficult calculation because I don't know all the facts. And unlike people who jump to conclusions, I don't want to do that. But if the evidence proves or seems to show that there are charges that should be leveled, then I think the rule of law should apply to anyone.
Madam Secretary, Congresswoman Alexander.
Okay, so it's interesting. They're being kind of cautious because I think which is surprising because I'm so used to Democrats kind of pushing the pedal to the metal or metal to the pedal, whatever you say, when it comes to Trump and speaking with very little caution. But I think that they're afraid of setting him up as too much of a martyr and overselling what they're going to find.
Yeah, they're in a bind because they can't talk about anything else, right? But Trump, it's all they can talk about. But they also don't want to oversell this case, this Mar-a-Lago case,
right?
Because it's it's tricky. So they got to talk about him constantly, but not commit too hard.
Right.
So it's a fine balance.
Reminds me of when Jamie Raskin was asked if it was going to blow. What was it like? Blow the roof off?
Yes, it was
January 6 hearings.
Yeah. Yes. Blow the roof off the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the problem here, it's like, with both Hillary and Trump, they're not like, when she talks about, no one's above the law. Neither of them will ever be held to account for their worst crimes. I mean, Trump committed many crimes, but he's not going to be actually held accountable for those. He'll only be held accountable when he goes after another faction of the ruling class, like he did on January 6th, or like when he did with his previous impeachment, which was about him trying to get Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. When you threaten the other faction of the ruling class, that is a crime. When you threaten the world, that's normal. And both Hillary and Trump did plenty of that. I mean, she's speaking on the anniversary of 9/11. Just looking at a record of Secretary of State, on 9/11 in 2012, the U.S. ambassador to Libya was killed, along with 3 other Americans. And that's because they, at the time, were in Libya helping to coordinate the transfer of weapons from Gaddafi's looted stockpile after the U.S., with Hillary playing a big role, overthrew the government and caused a lot of chaos in Libya, and then taking the weapons from that and moving them to Syria to arm sectarian death squads there. And that's a massive crime in which the U.S. actually took the side of al-Qaeda. That's why Jake Sullivan wrote to Hillary Clinton, al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. But no one will ever be held to account for that. No one will ever even be asked about it.
Right. Well, we have some more interesting stuff with Clinton, even more interesting than what we were just watching.
Wow.
Can we play the rest of the clip, Wilson?
Andrea Ocasio-Cortez gave an interview this week, and she was talking about how she feels conflicted when little girls tell her that they want to be president. She said, "I never want to tell a little girl what she can't do." But she's seen how many people, quote, hate women. And sometimes she believes she lives in a country that would never let that happen. You got closer than any other woman in this country to being president. What do you think?
Well,
what a weird thing, first of all, for AOC to say.
You think so?
Kind of.
I'm just wondering if Hillary's going to find a way to blame Bernie now.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, Bernie said it first. That's the claim, right? That Bernie told Elizabeth Warren a woman can't win, which I don't believe for a second. But now his follower, the acolyte, the Bernie acolyte, AOC is repeating the message. Yeah, okay, let's see what you're saying.
So, like, well, the whole notion that a woman can't be president, that originates with Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, he's the propagator of that. So just don't listen to Bernie.
I think it's sad that we have so many people who seem to either resent or oppose women in the public arena, whether it's politics and government or the media or anything else. That's something we have to keep standing up against and speaking out against. And I think that a woman will become our president at some point. I certainly understand all of the obstacles you have to overcome to get there. But I continue to tell young women and girls that if they feel motivated to pursue political office, they should do so with their eyes wide open about how hard it is. And unfortunately, social media, with all of its misogyny, has made it more difficult. But we can't be bullied into silence or giving up on our own dreams. We have to continue to pursue them and encourage others to do the same.
I mean, just don't check your mentions.
Especially if it's a Bernie bro.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Well, she didn't name Bernie, so that's progress.
That's true, yeah, that is progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't call AOC self-loathing or something. So, internalized misogyny. Since she did vote back Bernie. Yeah. All right, what's next?
She was.
We got let's clip 13.
She was enormously popular, but the polls have shown that Charles doesn't quite have that capital. So how does he navigate this going forward?
Well, I think that he's both a link to the past and a bridge to the future. And I think if you watched his speech, his inaugural speech, is what we would call it, he touched everything perfectly. He touched his love for his mother, but also his love for the country and his sense of duty to the country. And I think she instilled in him in that. And then I think he too has been preparing for this role for many, many years, and he's been out in the community. So I think it will be interesting what he does, because I think he will be a bridge to the future.
He's been out in the community? Like what?
Yeah,
like what
I know, seriously.
What community was he in? Like the community of barons and dames and knights?
Yeah, the monarchical community. He's a member of the community. He's a community member.
Yeah.
He's an active member of the community.
Yeah. Well, what do you do in the royal? Like, what are the community events in the royal community? Like, you go and like, do you whip people?
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You ride horses? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You do both at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a tweet that's been going around that shows that from Robert Russo. We should show this tweet. It shows an interesting side of King Charles. So let's take a look at him. Here he is talking to the new incoming prime minister. But if we could just have a close up of his hand, which the following tweet does, yeah. Sausage hands. If you scroll down, Wilson, you see there's a preview of it. Someone else tweeted something, William something. You see that? Yeah, there we go.
Yes, he's very thick hands. Wow.
Very thick-handed man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe edema, which is water retention. He is, the product of inbreeding, so may have some extra challenges.
Well, our king has some health issues. that is chilling, because we rely on the king so much for leadership and for I mean, yeah.
The future's in his hands. His sausagey hands, yeah.
And those big hands, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Habsburg hands, someone wrote. Lizard jeans, yeah.
That's
All right. So we have, there's when God closes a window, he opens a door. When God closes a door, he opens a window, one of those things. So, Brian Stelter is gone, but we do have some new news coming from Fox News.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah. And this is a woman, by the way, Shannon Beam is her name. Her Twitter bio, this was a good find from Wilson. Her Twitter bio says, "Sinner saved by his grace." Capital H, capital G.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what's coming for us on Fox News.
What viewers can expect is what they've always gotten, which is hard-hitting, straight journalism, news of the day. We're going to talk to policymakers. We're going to press them for answers. I think that's what the American people want. They're sitting at home, looking at Congress, looking at a lot of what happens here in Washington, giving complete thumbs down when it comes to polling numbers and approval numbers. So we're going to press and ask the questions that I think folks at home are wondering. And not to be too wonky, but everything that's decided here in Washington does impact people at home, whether you're
so
students,
wonky.
a single parent,
So
a married couple, whatever your station in life is, what happens here in Washington impacts the taxes you pay, the price for gas, foreign policy, everything. So I want to make sure that people have somebody asking their policymakers to account for what they're doing. But something I think that might be a little bit different is we're going to look outside the Beltway, too. We're going to look at issues of culture and entertainment and sports and faith. And I think where those things make sense on any given Sunday, we'll weave them into the show as well, because I think a lot of people do care what happens inside the Beltway, but much of their life and the way that they live and what matters to them is outside the Beltway, too.
You have not given an interview to the American media since this crisis began. Who gave the order to react against the protesters?
You don't need order, because this is their job.
Well, somebody had to say, use guns. Somebody had to say.
No.
I look back and I think about the women I look to as pioneers in this business, people like Barbara Walters and Jessica Savage and Leslie Stahl and, so many women that I could name that they laid such a path and fought through different battles that I never felt like there wasn't anything I could do in this business because of them. So I look at people like Diane Sawyer and others and think about them and want to say thank you to the legacy that they created, so that when this job came along, I don't think that anybody thought, well, is a woman ready for this? Is this
She should
right
talk to
position for
AOC.
a woman? Should it be a man? Hopefully they were just thinking, who's the right journalist to fit this new role?
Some sad news. We've just learned that President George H.W. Bush has died.
We'll take you live to Vietnam in minutes, where the historic second summit is happening.
Did he really propose 5 times before he said yes?
He did. I'm really grateful for the path and those who came before me, so that when I had this opportunity, that door was open. I think that my faith is integral to everything that I do in my life. I try to keep it in that top priority spot, just like everybody else. I get drawn away from the urgent and the things that are clawing at us for our attention, and I have to really do a reset for me almost every day. I think it will shift some of those priorities. I will go to bed, I promise, before 2 or 3 in the morning now, even though I'm a night owl. So I think that it'll give me a little bit more balance as I continue to cover legal analysis in the Supreme Court during the week, and all of the focus being on the heavy research, which I love to do all throughout the week to get us ready for those deeper, more meaningful Sunday conversations. But as services go, luckily churches have so many different options, 11, 12, online. I found during COVID some amazing pastors in churches that I really enjoy watching their online sermons too. So I feel like I may worship in a slightly different way, but there are so many ways to do it now that I think they'll all still be there.
Wow. So
A new era.
A new era, but this is interesting. She had to explain to viewers that they didn't have to worry. She's missing church, but she's going to watch it on live stream.
That's I'm reassured to know that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm wondering when I'm watching the Sunday news shows. Why aren't they in church?
Right. They're all sinning. I'm
Yeah.
worried about them and their
Yes.
souls. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Her highlight reel was, I think, I mean, they have her breaking the news of George H.W. Bush's death.
Right.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
And asking Jill Biden
about the number of times Joe proposed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is 5 times, which I didn't know.
I didn't know either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I wonder if he forgot. Just kept forgetting. Yeah.
Oh man.
Could have been that. Yeah. Yeah. So I like the footage of the B-roll footage of church. That was interesting. I don't know if that was her.
What, was it her in church?
I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like stock footage from the
I know,
like
stock
the 90s.
footage. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is that the best they could do is go back to the 90s for church?
Has she really been saved, as she claims in her bio, Twitter bio?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Sinner Sunday.
Sinner Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saved Sinner Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. Save Sinner Sunday.
SSS. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's just not the same without Brian Stelter.
I know. I know. I thought maybe. Yeah. When's he coming back? Well, we got to get him on this show.
Yeah. Like the stream, everybody, if you want Brian Stelter to come back.
Yeah, like the stream if you want
do it for Brian.
Back, yeah. Do it for Brian. Life of Brian. Yeah. That is interesting though, that she had to tell people that she basically had to cover for her missing church.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I never thought that never crossed my mind, the commitment that these people make.
No, me either. No.
On Sunday mornings, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is no life without Brian. That's very true. Should we tell people who our guest is this week, or should we surprise them?
Oh, that's right. We've already lined up our guest this week.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big one. Up to you. I mean, you booked the guest.
Well, let's just say he's been a big part of this show historically. We'll leave it at that.
That is fair to say. Yes, definitely a returning champion. Absolutely.
Yeah, returning champion. Yeah. No, it's not Seltzer. We should warn people. It's not. Don't want to get their.
We wish.
Stuff. Yeah. If only.
Yeah. 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 We need more likes to have a chance.
Yeah. Seltzer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but we should get him. Someone said Henry Kissinger. We should try to get him before he leaves. Kurt Loder. No one's guessing who it is. Oh, one person guessed who it is. All right. All righty. All right. Well, guys, we're gonna meet you right now. Well, in like 5 minutes, I guess. Right? We'll meet you on Colin.
We're gonna start in less than 5 minutes at 11 a.m. Eastern time on Colin. That's right.
Yeah. All righty. See you on Colin, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks. And make sure you subscribe at usefulidiots.substack.com.